in decades. When you
Craig,
have all of your top people under investigation, it's mind-boggling.
Craig, as someone who did a tremendous job, and I'm speaking with first-hand knowledge of this, as someone who did a tremendous job of growing the Republican Party in an unlikely place like Brooklyn, New York, what is your view as far as Donald Trump? Can he really compete in battleground states and expand the big tent of the Republican Party going forward?
That's kind of an interesting question and a slippery slope. I think that a lot of people would say that he's already expanded the Republican Party and broadened the tent and everything else because of all the people that have come out to vote for him throughout the country in all of the different primaries and caucuses and everything else. The thing about Donald Trump is that people find him to be exciting. They find that the fact that he says whatever's on his mind doesn't have any, doesn't hold back, has no monitor, has no control over what he says. People find that, exciting and refreshing and different from every other politician out there that is just so concerned about being politically correct 110% of the time. I think the country is tired of the corruption. I mean, how many state senators and state assembly people and city councilmen and governors and mayors have to get arrested and indicted around this country before they realize that the way they do business, the manner in which they do business, the manner in which they conduct their business and their offices needs to change, that people are tired of it. So, there's this groundswell of support. I mean, there's so many county chairs who I worked with for my 9 years that have rolled up their sleeves and jumped into the Donald Trump campaign, full force. And then at the same time, there's a bunch of them that say never Trump. So it's funny, the dichotomy out there and the differences between these people. But like I said earlier, it's going to be a very interesting road between here in July and then here in November. But,
well, let me just say this publicly, pal, because, you, Russ, and I, we worked together very closely for many years trying to make something of the Republican Party in Brooklyn. And to watch the way that this state party is now, it really is pathetic. You know what I mean? First, everybody was with Rubio, then they jumped off that train. Then they were with Kasich, and they jumped off that train. Then some of them were going to Cruz, and some of them, they were with Jeb even before that. What does this party have to do in this state to actually get things moving? I mean, you were probably the most successful county chairman in the state for, I was at least half a decade, winning special elections for Congress and for state offices. What does this party have to do to get this act together?
Well, you know what I mean. The state party, I got to say, Ed Cox has done a great job, and he's working hard. And people attack him all the time, and they say, he should be doing this, or he should be doing that, or he shouldn't be doing this, or whatever. And you know what? I mean, running the state Republican Party is similar to running a county organization. It's a wider brush, it's a broader stroke. And I could feel his pain because it's not easy. It's not easy dealing with people that make demands, not on a daily level, but on a minute-by-minute level, make unreasonable demands, and everybody is an armchair quarterback, and they sit there and they say, you should do this or you should do that. I mean, the most fun I had as the chairman was when people would call me and start attacking me and say, I think that you're not doing a good job with, dealing with veterans, for example. I think that you need to do more. I think that you need to get out there more, and you need to speak to the veterans, and you need to work with the veterans. You need to go to the veteran meetings, and you need to, bolster up the Republican Party in the eyes of the veteran. And in response to that, I would say, well, you know what? It's your lucky day because you sound very, very interested in this, and I could feel it. I could feel the desire. I said, we have an opportunity. You can be our liaison to the veteran community or the educators or whatever it was, and you see how fast that person runs off the phone because everyone has an idea about what needs to be done, but no one wants to do it. Everybody's got the criticism or the critique of the person that's doing it, but no one wants to give up their own time to help. And you said we had a great party. We had a great party. In the first 5 to 6 years of our administration running the Republican Party with all of us, I mean, we had headquarters, we had fabulous Lincoln dinners every year, we had events every month. Unfortunately, it all came crashing to an end because of certain people's greed and power, hunger for power, and But you know what? The Republican Party in the state of New York is growing in certain areas. I mean, upstate they have a lot of county execs in the Republican Party. They've taken back a lot of legislatures around the state. The problem is the city of New York, and that's a problem that we can't control because of the voter registration, and that's just got to be a grassroots effort. And I think once the elected officials learn that they need to work with the counties and not against the counties, and they start to work together in unison, you will see a change. You will see growth of the Republican Party citywide again.
Well, let me say this, and we'll let you go on and get on with your evening. Thanks so much for calling in. Folks, the reason why Behind Enemy Lines Radio exists is because of Craig Eaton. People don't realize this, that Craig is where this started. It was started at a Chinese restaurant in Bay Ridge in January of 2010, and me coming up with this crazy idea of how to party build. And I brought Russ into this, and they were both like, well, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it, and we'll let you run with it. But because he let me run with it, we were able to grow the party and grow the show to the point where we are now on radio stations across the nation and on the internet, and actually important people. Craig, we can't thank you enough for everything that you did for us, and we're glad that you've moved on from Brooklyn. And listen, man, we can't be more thankful for everything that you did for us and helping us grow and build this show.
Well, you know what? Thank you guys. Thank you all for your help. We couldn't have done it without you. And I'll speak to you soon. Have a wonderful evening.
At least we can brag, pal. Craig Eaton, the former chair of the Brooklyn GOP. Listen, that was a little Brooklyn GOP old school right there. I kind of like that, pal. That Brooklyn GOP radio is the way we started. For those of you who listen to the show, maybe listening on any of our affiliates and all the things, I'll get to the plugs later. Craig is the guy that allowed us to do this. He got us our first equipment. He gave us a space to do the show. And from that, and he gave us the okay to travel the CPAC and all these things to carry Brooklyn's banner. This is how we got started. This is back to our roots, pal.
The godfather of the show.
Absolutely. And speaking of back to the roots of the show, there we go. It's time for a little more Two Drink Minimum Radio. 718-395-2351. That's 718-395-BEL1. If you're listening to the live show Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker, we'll get some other people calling in, I'm sure. Some other blasts from the past.
It's some blasts from the past, but it's a shame because we started off.
We're technical difficulties.
Forget about the technical difficulties. I'm talking about callers. That's the high point of the show, folks. So if you expect the calls to get better, you might as well just log off now.
And speaking of it all, the ones
that I know are going to call in next, go get a drink.
And speaking of which, 646-698, you're on the air. Hey there, how you doing?
Hey, Gene, Russ, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to hear from you. What do you want to talk about tonight?
Wow, the way they handled the 911 call, with how they, omitted all the connections to ISIS and to terrorism, it completely highlights and demonstrates why when people are saying that you have to acknowledge the enemy, you have to acknowledge it, and the liberals, they say, oh, but hey, you told me ISIS is going to be destroyed that way. No, Sherlock. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a process. It's a process how to eliminate ISIS. But what it does more than actually effectively combat ISIS, it tells you where the administration, where their perspective is at. And they just don't What is up with that? It just boggles my mind.
Well, listen, when Yak doesn't know what's going on, that's just a day that ends in Y. But no, I'm just kidding, Yak. You know what? I agree with you. I agree with you that nobody in the administration knows what's going on with anything in the world. Let's just put it out there right now as that. By the way,
Gene,
listen,
that was a very coherent, well laid out point. So I'm going to assume
yes, overruled.
I'm going to assume. I'm talking about from the caller. Yeah,
it's Medication Tuesday.
It is not No Medication Wednesday.
Well, of course, it's Tuesday, of course, but
good job, Yak. I like your style. We were hoping to have you in rare form or normal form, if you will.
No, that was very well done.
Very well done.
Well, it's good. It's good to have the old Brooklyn GOP spice back.
And by the way, speaking of old Brooklyn GOP old school, Yak, just hang up the phone for a second and listen to this little bit of old school radio coming at you right now. There's something we used to play for you all the time in the day.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrap that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
So that was for Yak. And that was a Republican governor of the largest state in the country.
Yes, it was.
God help us.
See, this is what we used to do, folks, when we didn't know what to talk about during the show. We would just, open it up. We used to be in a room. It's a good time to remember some history. We used to be in a room, and, not bigger than what we're in right now. And we'd have, 4, 5, 6 microphones set up for people to just jump on and talk about. It was crazy. It was a free-for-all. It was the best time we probably ever had in politics, Russ.
Let's get focused here. What are we talking about?
All right, time to focus.
Let's get some real topics going.
Get some real topics
I'm getting
going.
aggravated now.
I want to know from Russ Gallo right now, why did Donald Trump raise only a little bit more than what Ted Cruz did in the month of May? Ted Cruz raised $2.6 million in all of May, only campaigned for 6 days. Donald Trump raised $3.1 million in May, was campaigning the entire month. I ask you that. Yak, hold the line. I know you're back. I just want to get an answer from Russ on this question first. Why is that, Russ Gallo?
There's a bunch of reasons why. Number one, Gene, you're from the political world, especially locally. Donald Trump does not have much experience in politics. The hardest thing in the world when you're running for office, believe me, is asking for money. The easiest thing in the world is giving speeches, shaking hands. That's all the fun part about politics. The hard part is to sit down across from someone or to stand in front of a group of working class people or even rich people and ask them for money. It's the hardest thing to do. Think about this in your real life,
You're
folks.
trying to tell me that Donald Trump is a shrinking violet?
I'm just saying it's not something that comes naturally to anyone. Donald Trump is a businessman. He doesn't go and ask people for money. He has to go... He is going to be violating the very thing he ran in the primaries against. Asking for money for a political race, which he bashed throughout the whole primary.
Then he should go into his pocket and reach and get some more cash.
Now, but listen, no one can self-fund a race that's going to cost anywhere between $400 million on the low side and $1 billion on the far side. You can't self-fund that. So the guy's going to have to raise money. On the flip side, though, Hillary Clinton's staff consists of 700 people. Donald Trump's staff consists of 70. So he is already running a lean, mean operation, and he won't need anywhere near as much money as Hillary Clinton. One last thing, Gene, before we get to the caller, is Donald Trump, brilliant man. Nothing he does is by accident. I'm convinced of this. He realizes this. At the end of the day, in politics in the United States, it comes down to a handful of the 50 states that you have to win to be able to win the presidential election because of the way our electoral college is set up and everything else. He knows this. We're talking about Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, a handful of states. That's where he needs to spend money. He doesn't necessarily need $1 billion. He needs enough money to compete in 5 to 8 battleground states to win this thing.
But the battleground states are getting more and more. And we're back. Sorry about that, folks. The internet went out. Going to start again. 3, 2, 1. Russ, let me just say this to you. I think that the Trump campaign is in a lot of trouble. The signs that are all